So we appreciate your time and joining us. We're going to talk about really three issues today. How AI is affecting the design component. Then we're going to turn to how AI is affecting the advertising side of things. And then finally, the operation side for fashion companies. Why don't we start real quick on the design side? I was in Milan recently, meeting with one of my footwear clients. And the chief designer was telling me that he took the shoe designs from 22, 23, 24, and 25, dumped them on an LLM, and asked it to predict what the shoe design should look like for 26. He said he did 4 or 5 edits on this and spent about an hour on the situation and ended up with 50 designs that he said would have taken him essentially 3 months to get to prototype stage. When you were in the business, AI wasn't as prevalent. What do you see as really on the design side of things and how it's affecting it?
I think the biggest and maybe number one pain point of the fashion industry is prototyping. So you have designers that are full of ideas, and then they draw sketches, and then it goes on the other side of the world, and you do a prototype, and then it comes back, and it's not what they wanted, back and forth. The average is you do 5 prototypes to do one product that's going to see the shelf. With AI, there is a revolution here. You have products like Design 3D. You sketch, you upload, and then you see a 3D model of your product. So the difference is when you do prototype, when you design and you do a prototype, you create hypotheses. But when you do it with AI, you create options. And now the merchants or the merchandisers, they can choose before you produce. This is a reduction of cost of 30% of everything that is affected by design. Today in 2026, 50% of what you can buy in a store of fashion has been assisted by AI. In 2 years, it's going to be 100%. That, according to McKinsey, they have a report every year, it's worth $300 billion of savings. And so if you want to invest in fashion, this is the time because they are going to be profitable. It's a very high margin industry with low profits. And AI is going to drop tremendous dollar to the bottom.
He was telling me that he has 30 designers, and he needs a fifth of that now to be able to get to market even quicker, because you're always going to have a need for wisdom. And you've used other terms for it to really determine what product is going to sell. And in this example, he wanted to change the colors to red and green and the like. So you're always going to rely on somebody with expertise on that.
Yeah, but the AI, there is another great tool where AI would suggest different fabrication, different trim, different trends in finishing the product. This cannot come out of a one person mind, but the one person mind can decide which one is going to make sense. But I think the most interesting one in AI is hallucination, because in design, you make your best design by making a mistake, right? But the machine makes mistakes. They hallucinate, and then if you have the right brain to pick up on this, fashion has new years in front of it. So that's fascinating.
And what's interesting, many of you have talked to me about this. One of the concerns you guys have is the IP play on this. Well, if AI creates the design, you won't have protection in it. But I always push the fashion companies, and I've said, who cares? I don't know how many lawsuits I've seen on copyright infringement for footwear. I've seen them for patterns. But with the amount of savings that you're going to be able to recognize for this compared to how often you might sue somebody for a certain pattern, I think most fashion companies are going to make the decision that the savings is worth the loss.
I work for a lot of fashion companies. You know how the next collection is created? With the previous collection, by shopping all the competitors, you put all of this on the wall, and then you decide. So there is copyright, I get it, it's your job, but there is nothing new, it's just a reinvention, right? Okay, an evolution of things. So if we think like this, but the most interesting thing is all these big companies, and I was working at Ralph Lauren, we had a place called the Library on 5th Avenue and 18th Street. Thousands and thousands and thousands of samples of product, of vintage products organized. So You have a whole alley of flight jackets, from 1940 something to nowadays, and all of this is digitalized, and it's accessible for designers for inspiration. But now you can put it in the machine, and you can ask, the AI to create the next Ralph Lauren collection, but
Ralph,
but with 100% DNA.
You were mentioning that you had, when you were working for Ralph, you guys would spend weeks meeting this, and then he ended up coming in. Tell that story.
Like all the companies, they do brand books, and they try to capture all the DNA of everything in a book, so it's shareable. And so we were doing this, with all the executives, and one day Ralph comes in, and he says, like, what are you doing? Oh, we're trying to put the brand book together. He says, why are you doing this? You just ask me, There is 25,000 employees in the company. It's going to be hard to ask, but it's very accessible. But now, imagine now with AI.
He's not so young.
He's not so young. But now with AI, you can have an avatar. You can have a twin, that is as good as him, but even better. In 50 years, he will have all the DNA of the genius, but he will have evolved as well. It's not him 50 years back. It's him in 2060.
We represent a lot of marquee and iconic designers, and I can imagine that if they could create a twin of themselves, so that in 50 years somebody could ask Diane von Furstenberg, well, what do you think of this or whatever, and you could have a virtual twin that did this. I think they'd be very amenable to it. I think that would be fascinating. So let's turn to the second area, which is really dealing with this in the design side of things. So here's an example. This is one of my favorite, where AI is being used in a very different manner. You walk by this store and you want to see what the fashion looks like on you, and AI was immediately putting on a jacket. I thought it was a brilliant example of a virtual mirror being offered to the public. It's you want to get a customer to actually come in your store. I've seen few better ways of doing that and that. But maybe, Francis, you can talk about some of the other ad campaigns here. I know the top one is a Gucci ad that was totally done.
Yeah, fashion has always embraced new technology. But new technology is always complex, and it's always costly, and it takes a lot of resources. So imagine like a shooting on in a live place. You imagine you need to have so many technicians and so many specialists. Even if you decide to do like a virtual background, you still need technicians, that have all the skills. With AI, you don't need that anymore. You just need a good prompt. Gucci that we see in the middle. It's 100%. It's an Insta campaign just before the fashion show that was completely generated by AI, which is funny. It's what made the buzz. It's not what's in the ad. It's the fact that it was fully generated by AI, and so you see how the fashion is actually leveraging the technology. I think there is another one that I really love is Nike. They were celebrating their 50 years anniversary, and they made Serena Williams play with Serena Williams across the years, so she plays against Serena Williams when she's 18 and 20, etc. It is a brilliant one. The last one that I have also in mind is Valentino for their latest fashion show.
That's the bottom one.
Yes, it is actually. So for the latest fashion show, when you're invited, you upload a photo of yourself, and then they create an avatar of it, and then as the catwalk happens, you can see yourself wearing the clothes that are passing in front of you. I thought it was pretty fantastic.
So I'm a big advocate, which will be controversial here, of not hiring models. We represent more fashion brands than anybody. You bring a kid model into your presentation for print, it is the biggest pain in the ass you can imagine. You have parental consent, you have to have somebody, you have SAG, you have all this stuff. I would never advocate to any of my brands that we're not exactly targeting a kid to ever have a real kid in the ad ever again. I mean, to be able to avoid a lot of the SAG issues and things like this is going to be such a cost savings for companies to do this. Now, as you guys know, there are legal requirements and there are brand requirements. I don't see some brands ever leaning into the AI, and their customer base doesn't care. Other brands, like that are more cutting edge, like you work for Diesel, that was a brand that has always led with like creativeness and the like, and so their customers probably wouldn't care. Some depending on the brand, it's going to make a bigger difference.
I think customers are not going to care. if it looks as good as the reality, why should I care? And if I can't make the difference, I don't even have a reason to care. Think about like the diamond industry. You can buy a natural diamond, or you can buy a man-made diamond. But even an expert has difficulty, unless you go in the ABC grades. But the man-made is 10% the price of the other one. So it's the same for here.
And I will say, we have had a lot of lawsuits that AI created a digital model for them, and then some celebrity says, well, the AI took my image and created that. And part of the problem is you don't know with some of the tools how they were sourced and where they were from. So that's something you have to pay attention to.
But even better than that, like Zara, for example, when they shoot on model, for you to shop on their website. But now when they sign the models, they agree for their image to be used again and again with different outfits. So it's one shoot, many outfits.
So we do a lot of entertainment work for movies and television as well, and this was a big negotiating tool that happened in the negotiations with the unions on when you could use an actor, their image in AI and the like. It's been done forever. You know how expensive it is to go back to a location and reshoot something? If you have the image of that model and you can, or that actor, and really put them in an AI situation where you would be able to save a tremendous amount of money from going back to Thailand and shooting, it makes sense. Let's turn to the third area. This is an area that most people really haven't thought about for AI. Everybody, and this group is primarily design, but as you said earlier, the margins on fashion are tight. And so the more you can, if you're going to get pushed down on the price and you're selling a pair of jeans for $250 and now you have to sell them for $200, you got to figure out how to cut expenses to get to that. And operations is the first place that you start thinking about. From accounting tools to inventory management is one that you've talked a lot about. You have somebody at a company that knows your product and they say, black dresses sell better in New York and red dresses sell better in LA, and then they create a certain number and they send it to those locations. With the AI tool now, you're going to be able to figure out in a second how the inventory is doing, and they can look at your competitors. Oh, let's see what Sephora is selling for those beauty products and how many bottles they have on, if it's open, how much inventory, what's sold out and the like. And it can come back with recommendations. Now, a human could do this, but it would be a tremendous lift. So on the operations side, with regarding inventory control, what are you seeing?
Well, the humans have been doing it since fashion exists and stores have existed. It's called demand forecasting. Okay, but now you can have it assisted with AI. And demand forecasting was based on the sales of last year. Okay, or the sales of last month, and that's pretty smart already. But now, imagine you can actually forecast the demand in a special place according to the weather is going to be this weekend. Now, that's a component that's pretty hard for just a unique brain to decide. What if you add on top of that what is trending on TikTok? What if you add on top of that, what the competitors are pushing, and then you put all of this in the machine, and then you allocate, day after day to the right place, and the right place could be a physical store, or it could be the landing page on your website, or it could be the ad that you're pushing on any social media, and that there is not a brain, there is not a group of humans that can do that because it's too many data. But when you aggregate them together, and then it becomes smarter and smarter, then you know exactly where to push your red dress. This is important because the industry estimates that for the same result, and I think the result is going to get better, but for the same result, we will need 14% less inventory that we ever needed. So 14% less inventory, it's more money to the bottom line. It's part of the $300 billion. But even more important for those who care, it's you're saving the planet, at least 14% at a time, because this is all these products that would end up in a landfill because of inefficiency. So we are improving efficiency, we are reducing waste.
Yeah, and I can think of some clients, I think Reformation's one that, you look at this dress here, you got to create this red dress in 12 different sizes for each store, and then you got to have it in blue and black and orange and every other color. Some of these stores have gone on where they have a virtual mirror, they got one size of every color, one size of one color only. You put it on and you say, let me see what it looks like in orange, and it pops up blue. And they'll ship it to you within 2 hours to your house or whatever else. That saves a tremendous amount of inventory and the like. And you were mentioning about the landfills. The EU has a directive right now where you're not allowed to destroy this stuff even. Right. And it's coming in the U.S. And so imagine like what H&M does or Zara or other people that have all this inventory. Where are they going to get rid of it? So this is a tremendous savings, as you said, for the planet. The other side is, on the operations side, is you've told me before that one of the biggest expenses as we've gone to e-commerce is the returns, because people bracket. They buy a size 6 dress, a 7, and an 8, and then they return 2.
Yeah, look, there was a time before e-commerce, and I was already leading some fashion businesses, and the return rate in stores was about 6, 7, and when you had 8% return rate, you were just really worried. And then internet comes in, and now we were happy with a 20% return rate.
20% from 8. Wow.
But that's when we launched. Nowadays, you're in between 30 and 40%. So every 10 items that you ship somewhere comes 4 come back. This is a tremendous cost for the corporation, for the environment, it's really a waste of time. What I really like is, and then the reason, and I give you another story about the magic mirror. I used to be at Diesel, and then we were selling a lot of jeans, and jeans at Diesel, they needed to make your backside look good, because otherwise, why would you buy a Diesel pair of jeans? And then so we invented a magic mirror before anything of this happened. So we had a mirror, and then we had a camera in the back, that was projecting. It was delayed by 3 seconds, so you could see your back. But Zara has taken it to another level. You upload your photo, you create an avatar of yourself, and everything you put in your cart is actually worn by you. So you're solving: is it going to fit me? Am I going to like it? Is it my style? That's another huge saving, I would say.
And a lot of our clients use DressX for this. And this
DressX is perfect for this too. Yeah.
So you guys have been using this in your business, and you guys are like the premier gifting company. So you have like Marriott, you have Estee Lauder, you have FIFA, L'Oreal, all these, Bugatti. And they'll come and they'll say, we want to make sure that, like, this Prada, I think, was done for influencers of Prada. So Prada wanted to make sure the influencers were given something really special, a unique type of gift. You guys started to use AI to cut down a lot of the cost on this. Maybe you can talk about what you see.
In my company, we create branded products for the most admired companies in the world, and they are very specific of what like in the case of Prada, you can't use any paper, it cannot be any color, and it needs to be finished in a special ways. So you can design anything you want, but you have to make sure you can make it. And we use AI to match the capabilities of our factories to the design that we are creating.
That's important, because a lot of the clients we've seen, the AI companies in this room, create something and they ask you to make it, and it's not practical. So that's once again, you're bringing your experience in the fashion industry, not only with where to source from. I know you use some of the factories Hermes uses and the like, so you know those factories, but you're also, when they give you these prototypes, you're able to cut back and say, that's not going to be practical.
Yeah, actually, the AI is telling us we can't make it. So our job is to find a solution, but often is to find an alternative. And again, using AI to give an alternative to the client, because everybody's a creative nowadays. Because you go to Gemini and you can create any form of a product you want. It doesn't mean it's
practical.
It's practical, and anybody can manufacture it.
Right, but from an advertising component, you've been able to cut down a lot of your advertising, your production cost as well by having this done, having the prototypes made and the like.
It's the same in our industry, prototype, but we are more in the marketing, advertising side, and the lead time is more compressed, because you do your collection, you do your campaign, and then you say, okay, I need an object, to support, and now you have 2 months to do it, as opposed to having.
So you're working on one of the biggest campaigns in the world now, the World Cup coming up, and so they're bespoking different types of products and the like, and so you're using.
I have to speak to my lawyer.
Okay.
because I'm not allowed to speak about it.
Oh, okay. We could talk about other products and the like, and what you guys are doing. You've done it, I know, for a number of AI companies. You've done it for hospitality is a big one,
Yep.
and the like. And so, what are you seeing for the hospitality industry? Let's talk there.
Well, the hospitality industry is very interesting because they are a service industry, so they are not used to making a tangible expression of their product unless they are building a hotel. So we are transforming their brand into a tangible product, and again. Reinterpreting a brand into a product, that's our core competency, but supported by AI is way faster. Think you take all the brand book and everything you know about a company, and then you merge it with everything you can do.
Great. Well, I appreciate your time, Francis, and thank you. Appreciate it, guys.